Today, the world faces a choice between democracy and autocracy. America's determination to preserve democracy here in Taiwan and around the world remains ironclad.
A divisive move, to say the least.
It is the US's provocative actions that have led to the escalating tensions.
On touching down in Taipei, Nancy Pelosi received the rock star treatment, snagging the order of propitious clouds from the Taiwanese parliament as well.
When you say that I'm a good friend of Taiwan, I take that as a great compliment, but I receive it on behalf of my colleagues.
But back in China, a different sort of red carpet was rolling out. Missiles, live fire exercises, and jets patrolling the red line that runs through the Taiwan Strait. Also, cyber attacks.
These are unreasonable actions that challenge international orders, jeopardise the status quo over the Taiwan Strait, and threaten regional security.
And if you're wondering how a diplomatic visit could bring us to the brink of war, it's largely because of a war that never really ended. When the Chinese Civil War reached a stalemate in 1949, the communists controlled the mainland and the nationalists were holed up in Taiwan. Beijing's never abandoned hope of a reunion, but still refuses to recognise Taiwan's sovereignty, and it doesn't take kindly to anyone who does. And while Beijing's no stranger to tough talk, even the US president's concerned this time.
The military thinks it's not a good idea right now.
As for our PM, he's not touching it with a barge pole.
The level of US engagement with our Taiwanese counterparts is a matter for them.
And the fact that he's launched a comprehensive review of our Defence Force's battle readiness, hopefully just a coincidence.
It's a fast-changing environment, and it's absolutely imperative that we review the current strategic circumstances, which I rate the worst I've ever seen in my career and lifetime.
So has Nancy Pelosi lit the fuse for the next World War?
Well, Sam Roggeveen is director of the Lowy Institute's International Security Program, and he joins us now. Sam, is China's response just another empty threat, or are they serious this time?
Well, they've always been pretty serious about Taiwan. In fact, President Xi Jinping has said publicly that this is an issue that can't go unresolved forever. And we take that to mean that China will eventually want to bring Taiwan back under the control of mainland China and under the control of the Communist Party. Now, having said that, China, most Western analysts would say that China doesn't yet have all the military capabilities it needs to, mount an invasion of Taiwan. Think something akin to the opening scene of Private Ryan, but with 21st century weapons. China doesn't actually have quite enough ships yet to do that kind of job.
Which I suppose means that Nancy Pelosi's visit isn't about to trigger a war imminently. But nonetheless, it does seem that everyone all over the world, including her own president, is saying, please do not do this. Is there a version of this where this is a good idea?
The Pelosi visit itself, I don't think was a great idea. Look, the best gloss you could put on that is that at least Pelosi herself and the United States has shown that it won't back down in the face of Chinese demands that it do so. So it's shown resolve to that extent. But on the other hand, it feels slightly like an empty gesture to me. It's really a showcase for Pelosi and a media event largely.
If China does get to the point where they can invade Taiwan, what does that mean if they do that?
Look, there's two versions of this. Neither of them are very good. One version is where the Americans don't intervene. And if that happens, then China still has a major advantage, but still has a lot of heavy fighting ahead of it. So Taiwan probably has underinvested in recent years in its own military, but nevertheless has sufficient military capability to make a Chinese invasion very bloody. The Chinese ought to be quite sobered by what they've seen happening in Russia and Ukraine. Now, China on paper has a better, more sophisticated military force than Russia does, but nevertheless, I think that ought to be a sobering reminder of how difficult it is to invade another country, never mind that you'd have to cross a large body of water to do it. The other version of this is that if the Americans do get involved, and if that happens, then really all bets are off. And we're talking about certainly the largest war that we've had in Asia since Vietnam, and potentially the biggest war we've seen in the world since World War II that could involve the use of nuclear weapons.
And Sam, what does this mean for Australia? We're doing a defence review. Does that mean we're all good?
Look, what it means for Australia is that we have to ask some incredibly hard questions about our relationship with the United States, firstly. So if the United States is determined to back Taiwan, then it seems obvious that the Americans will ask us to help. It seems to me that Australia's core security interests are not threatened by an invasion of Taiwan. It would be a terrible thing, and I hope it never happens, but Australia is a long way away, and our core security interests would not be threatened by an invasion of Taiwan. So I think we really need to think twice about whether the relationship with the United States, as important and as useful as it's been to us for many decades, is so important that we want to take that kind of risk. I think that's an incredibly sobering moment, and Australian decision makers would be really negligent if they didn't think through the full implications of that.
No winners, whichever way you look at it. Sam, thanks so much for your time tonight.
Good. Thank you all.